Hello everyone, time for another update on my Old West project and Deadman's Hand and so on. And first up, I've finished assembling the next building, which is the first National Bank. I think probably my favourite building so far, though I'm not without some criticisms of it. But yeah, it's very detailed and elaborate. I think you can probably make out that in this particular building's case, the windows are all glazed and there's lettering etched into the windows as well, advertising various banking services, as usual, all the open doors and so on. The front feature is the most detailed. Obviously the sides, just plain wall. There's a door at the back and some more windows. Again, the windows are glazed, but in the case of the back, they're not lettered or anything. And another plain side there. One of my criticisms of it would be that the yellow, for some reason, the yellow laminate, I suppose you'd call it, is very friable, and it comes away so easily, revealing a kind of white surface underneath. And I've had to touch it up in all kinds of places, but I found using a yellow ink hid that damage quite well. But it's unavoidable, especially with these sort of, I don't know what you'd call them, like sort of supports or abutments or buttresses or something. You put two together and they fit into a slot in the surface, but when you put them together, they are far too big. They don't fit at all. So you've got the option of either forcing them in, which is going to flake the yellow off, or sanding them down, which again is going to cause the yellow to flake off quite easily. Or in what I actually ended up doing was just trying to carve off a little bit with a scalpel, but even that, because the yellow is so easily detached from the MDF, even that caused a lot of damage. But there is absolutely, some of them were like 50% bigger in size, in width, than the available kind of socket to put them in. So I don't know what happened there with their the design, but it wasn't, usually these kits, the foreground kits, fit together very nicely. They need a little bit of sanding and so on and persuasion, but that was just beyond beyond the chance of being able to do it without causing it some damage. But inside the building, the interior detail is what I like most of all. The outside is great, but I'll show you the inside now. Just rearrange the camera a little bit and have a sort of top-down look. Right, here we are then. This is looking down onto the roof, and as you can see, they've actually got a hatch which does open and close, allowing figures up onto the roof. So it's quite a nice surface there to put wargaming figures on, have them firing down into the street and so on. The upper floor I made a bit of a mess of myself, basically, from my poor modelling skills. There's not a vast amount of going on in the top floor anyway, but everything, all these panels have to be put in separately. I suppose they represent steel or iron plate or something to make the bank secure. But again, each of the walls is two parts and you have to glue them together, and this is one long part. And I glued it together and then only spotted once the glue had set that it was slightly misaligned up this end, which meant that when I put the doors in, they didn't fit. So one of those doors at least, that one doesn't open and close, that one does, but the door up the end here doesn't open and close. And staircase is sort of interesting because if you remember from that model that I enhanced, I was a bit worried about the drop here. So I think this could have done with them supplying you with a little balustrade or barrier of some sort to stop people just walking out of this room and falling down the stairs. That's a bit unrealistic, but it's a minor detail. And on the ground floor, this is where it comes into its own, this building. It's really superb. You have a kind of strong room, which is all in sort of simulated brick with barred sort of areas where the safe would be. I don't know if you can see, but the counter is all in a different sort of gold kind of colouring, so it's very kind of ornate. It looks just right, sort of like dark wood with gold embellishments in it. I found it very difficult putting these together because, again, two parts to each wall, and they have to sort of dovetail into one another here, but at the same time you then have to get them to fit into sockets in the walls as well as going downwards into sockets in the floor. And I did a bit of damage trying to get all that to work, so there's a bit of repair I had to do there and down the bottom, but it doesn't really show up very much. But absolutely, I think absolutely wonderful building this. It's going to be the setting for a lot of bank robberies and various scenarios to play out. On the subject of which, I bought it. There was a discounted price on it if you bought it as part of what the Great Escape Games call the bank set. So you get the building, you get 3 figures, which I haven't painted or started to paint yet. 2 of them are tellers. One of them's got his hands up, so there's a bank robbery going on, and one is just a female customer of the bank. So I want to kind of increase the number of non-combatant pieces I have in the game anyway. So I'll get those painted up fairly soon, hopefully. But you also get 2 safety deposit box sets. This is one of them with 15 safety deposits in it, and you get 2. One is numbered from 1 to 15 and the other from 16 to 30. And there was a bit of there were several kind of mess ups with that, which I'll tell you about in a moment. And you also get this safe itself, which is quite a nice piece. So that's obviously going to live in there. It's huge though. It's well over the height of a man. Absolutely huge piece. But yeah, these safety deposit boxes, it was a bit annoying really. As I say, you get 2. One of them came, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, one of them had like an additional piece stuck into one of the sprues, I suppose you'd call them. And I didn't think that was a problem until I started to put it together, and then discovered that because this has obviously occupied a certain amount of space, there hadn't been a crucial part, a crucial sprue packed. So I was missing all the outer walls of the of the container. So all I had was this sort of honeycomb effect, which is on its own is useless. So I could, I could have got in touch with them, and I'm sure they would have resupplied it, but I wasn't, not too bothered about it. But then when I came to do the other one, there's meant to be 15 drawers in it. Let's see if I can find it now. Yeah, there's meant to be 15 drawers in it. So you have 3 sprues which have the parts for the drawers. And as you can see, there's 5 ends there. 5 ends there, or 5 component parts to make the drawers. But on the final one, it's a much shorter, much smaller sprue, and there's only 4 drawers in it. So you can't possibly make 15 drawers. So in the end, I've kind of cobbled together one set of 15 drawers, and I've just given up on the other. But I just don't understand that at all. I have my suspicions that a lot of the construction and assembly instructions and so on, and the packaging and everything is all done by artificial intelligence and computer rather than by human kind of, intervention. And this is why this can happen. But, the photograph on the outside for both of them clearly shows 15 drawers on each. That's 16 to 30, and that is 1 to 15, and there's not a drawer missing, so there's definitely something gone wrong there. But anyway, I'm really happy with this this model. It's going to be great playing with it. So, oh yeah, while I've got this building out as well, I'll show you something else I've acquired. And I wouldn't recommend anyone actually going to the expense of doing this, but I thought you might be interested to see. When I did my other, the saloon that I kind of bought cheaply and then embellished it and put a staircase in and so on, I thought I might sort of try and investigate some doll's house furniture for that. And I got this from a company in New York State in America. It cost me £18, so it's probably more than I paid for the building. But if you really want to go to town on some of these buildings, you can see this is exactly the right height. If you cut a kind of space out of the floor, it's exactly the right height to fit. In that saloon bar. So I'm going to hang on to this and keep it for when I do a more kind of elaborate building that needs a staircase, I think. I thought it was going to be walnut colour, but I think it's actually proper walnut, because it is nice. It's a nice feeling thing. But yeah, it cost me about £18 plus the postage to get it over from America, so not something I'd advise you to do. But I just thought from the point of view of scale and so on, it's worth making a note of. Doll's house furniture seems to be far stricter in terms of the definitions of scale and so on, and I think you can get stairs that are 2 inches high or 2.5 inches high for 1/48 scale doll's houses. So I think it's just coincidence that it happens to be the right size for these foreground buildings, because the proportions mean that you're likely to get a sort of 2.5 inch height on each floor. But yeah, that's going to come in handy at some point. So what I'll do now, I'll put this building into the town and show you it in its setting, and then some figures that I've finished painting recently as well. Right, so there's the bank at the end of the street, sort of closing off the view a little bit, just beside the sheriff's building, and then on the other side a bit further back is the livery. And as I say, I'm going to show you not very many, but a few figures that I've painted. Starting off with a bit of a strange one, which is this one here. I'll zoom in on it a little bit. Now, I think that's in focus. This figure here is one that I've had in my lead mounting for a very long time, and I thought as I was buying so many Western figures I couldn't really allow myself to leave it unpainted any longer, but as I say, I got it as a freebie, and long before I had any inclination to wargame the Old West, and it's from Black Scorpion. Now, the reason I've got it is that I used to purchase a lot of pirate figures, and Black Scorpion have a fantastic range of pirates. When I used to buy them, they were metal, as is this figure here, and they were present at the Plymouth Wargame show one year, and they had a sort of offer on that if you spent so much money you got a free figure, and I qualified to get the free figure, but the pirate figure they were offering I had already, so I took this one instead, and it's just been sat, I've done nothing with it in my lead mounting ever since. I've got no intention whatsoever of using this in a game. It just doesn't match any of the other figures I've got. I like it as a sculpt and everything, but it's far too theatrical, really, and the everything about it is just sort of wrong, really, for in terms of it fitting in with the figures that I have. I mean, it's very kind of flowing. I mean, it's almost from the back. You'd almost imagine that it was a female figure. It's only when you turn the figure around and you see that he's got a moustache that you realise it is a man. But the scarf kind of billowing and flowing down past the waist, and the huge the size of that pistol, the barrel of the pistol is enormous. The sort of jacket that he's wearing, the trousers tucked into sort of pantomime boots almost, and he's using a sawn off shotgun with the other hand, feather in the hat. It looks, just doesn't look right, and that's not to say that I don't like it, but it's not going to be right for the games of the Old West. So I just got it out of my lead mounting as a sort of penance for all the figures that I've been purchasing without getting any painting, without painting anything from my lead mounting. Now, the reason I show you that is, as I say, I really like the pirates, and in the days I used to purchase them, they were metal. But Black Scorpion a long time ago switched to resin. This particular figure I can't see on their website any longer whatsoever, so it doesn't exist. But they switched to resin, and whereas some of their figures used to be slaughter based and some used to be pudding based, this one is pudding based, now they are all slaughter based. But they seem to have it's one sculptor, I forget his name, but he seems to have kind of reined in his flamboyant kind of sculpts, and the figures now are a lot more realistic. So I've purchased quite a lot of these resin figures to see how I got on with them, and I have to say, I am really, really happy with them. Unfortunately, I've probably got enough figures now to sort of do me for quite a long time, but if I was starting over again, I would probably go almost exclusively for these figures where, you know, where I can use them. I'm just going to change the camera angle a little bit because I'm not picking the details of this figure up very well. So bear with me a moment. Yeah, there we go. That's a bit better. The lighting in here is not very good today. So you can see there's still that kind of flowing kind of quality to the sculpt, but a far more kind of natural looking kind of figure in kind of realistic dress. So I've got 4 of these painted up. They are Outlaws, I think Outlaws set 2. Another guy here. And in terms of size, they're meant to be, they describe them as being 32mm. But if I put a Great Escape Games one next to him, I mean, it's certainly bigger, but that one's probably not a good choice because he's sort of crouched. You know, they are kind of fairly heroic size in terms of the others, but as I say, I think they're so nice that I'm gonna put up with that. The resin is, I was a bit unsure about, and the slotted base as well. What I did was actually do away with the ones that they give you with the figures. These kind of black plastic things here. This sort of thing. And I got some MDF ones from War Bases, which are much nicer, but the resin itself is incredibly light. You almost feel, you know, you could almost think you could blow this figure over. I probably could if I puffed at it. I won't attempt to, but really, really light. But the detail is unbelievable. Really hard to paint, not because there's too much detail, but because you have to be really careful. Things like fingers and so on, you know, they're not like the chubby fingers you get with metal figures. They're really slender, and it's easy to make painting mistakes. So I haven't done them justice with my painting really. This is the third one. And then the fourth guy, he's got a mask over his face, so you can see where I'm going with these guys. They're all going to be bank robbers. I've got quite a lot of others to paint up. I'll show you those. So this is what they look like in the war. Loads and loads of detail on them, really kind of crisp. Some of them are a little bit more in the style of that first one I showed you. For instance, the outlaw leader reminds me very much of, this is the outlaw leader. He almost looks like a villain from an American kind of comic, you know, like a sort of Batman comic or something like that. So I'm not so sure about him, but The one, you know, the sort of general run-of-the-mill figures, I think have, you know, very realistic look to them, and I'm really kind of pleased with them. So anyway, I'm gonna, as I say, not going to bother with that one, but these four definitely going to be taking part in my games. The only other thing that has been added to my collection, I'll just have to take the camera off its tripod in order to show you that. Just bear with me a moment. Down the street we go. Past the bank. The corral's been vacated now, so there's just horses in it, and the gunfight's going on beside the livery station now. But I did manage to paint up another little accessory, which is this wagon, which I got from Dixon's. Now, Dixon's horses I absolutely loathe, but their kind of carts and wagons and stagecoaches and everything are fine. So I've got a few things from them to paint up, a couple of figures as well, you know, like the Doctor that I showed you the last time. Anyway, quite pleased with that. So it's another bit of street furniture really, and that is everything that I have to update you on. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll end the video with another short animation that I've been working on. In fact, it's animating these four figures here just very slightly, just to as a way of kind of showcasing them slightly differently than just stills at the end. So I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching again. Bye for now.